All right, testing. How am I coming in? Can you hear me? Hello? Ah, all right. Very good. All right. So I am on the road, as it were, and traveling light, and I am not bringing my whole setup with my Yeti mic and HD cam and all this stuff. So I'm just using, for the first time, I'm using the camera on the laptop that I have and the headset for voice. So the camera quality is a bit lower, it looks like to me, but the audio quality should be good enough at least. All right, Steve, Sean, Sindhu, Steve, and Gautam and Bella. Welcome so far. We'll give it a little bit for people to come in. Hello, Douse. Sean, do you happen to know the where the comment that I posted is from? The first shall be last and the last shall be first. Ah, it's Jesus. It's from the Bible. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. Whenever I see somebody say first in like a live stream or a video or something, that's what I think of. All right. So we have shows that we have 7 people with us. So we'll give it another minute or so and then we'll get started. Ah, Steve, do you not have daylight savings time? That always the time change always causes some kind of trouble or another. All right. So I think we can get started. Hello, Elaine. Welcome. Clocks change later this month. Wow. You'd think with the global world that we have that we would figure this thing out. maybe not even do it. All right, so this is the chanting book. Let's start out with some chanting. We're going to do page 97, Gautami Sutta. Ekang samayang bhagava vesaliyang viharati. Should start out. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Ekang samayang bhagavave salayang viharati mahavane kutagara salayanang attako mahapajapati gotami yena bhagavatenupasankami. Upasankamitva bhagavantang abhivadetva ekamantang attasi ekamantang titako mahapajapati gotami bhagavantang etadavocha sadhu me bante bhagava sankittena dhammang dese tu yang ahang bhagavato dhammang sutva eka vupakatta appamatta aptapini pahittata vihariyanti ye kodvang gotami dhamme janeyasi eme dhamma saragaya samvattanti nove viragaya samyogaya samvattanti no visangyogaya achayaya samvattanti no apachayaya mahichataya samvattanti no apachahaya asangtuttitaya samvattanti no santuttaya sangannikaya samvattanti no pavikaya kosajjaya samvattanti no viryarambhaya dubharataya samvattanti no subharatayati ekang sena gotami dharayasi neso dhammo neso vinyo netang sattusahan sasananti ye chako tvang gotami dhamme janeyasi me dhamma viragaya samvattanti no saragaya visangyogaya samvattanti no sangyogaya apachayaya samvattanti no achayaya apichataya samvattanti no mahchichataya santuttaya samvattanti no asantuttaya pavivekaya samvattanti no sanganikaya viryarambhaya samvattanti no kosajjaya subharataya samvattanti no dubharataya ekang sena gotami dharayasi eso dhammo eso vinyo etang santusaha sasananti. All right, English. One time, the Sublime One was staying near Vesali in the peaked roof hall in the great forest. Then Mahapajapati Gautami approached the Sublime One, and having bowed down to the Sublime One, stood to one side. As she was standing to one side, she said, "It would be good, Venerable Sir, if the Sublime One would teach me the Dhamma in brief, such that, having heard this Dhamma from the Sublime One, I might dwell alone, secluded, diligent, earnest, and resolute. Go to me of the qualities of which you may know. These qualities lead to passion, not to dispassion, to being fettered, not to being unfettered, to self-aggrandizement, not to self-effacement, to overweening ambition, not to modesty, to discontent, not to contentment, to entanglement, not to seclusion, to laziness, not to arousal of energy, to being burdensome, not to being unburdensome. You go to me may definitely hold. This is not the Dhamma. This is not the Vinaya. This is not the teacher's instruction. As for the qualities of which you go to me may know, these qualities lead to dispassion, not to passion, to being unfettered, not to being fettered, to self effacement, not to self aggrandizement, to modesty, not to overweening ambition, to contentment, not to discontent, to seclusion, not to entanglement, to arousal of energy, not to laziness, to being unburdensome, not to being burdensome. You go to me may definitely hold. This is the Dhamma, this is the Vinaya, this is the teacher's instruction. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends, let's see who has joined us. All right, nobody new, so that's good. So, friends, welcome to Dhammapalooza, our weekly 2-hour festival of Dhamma, where the Maggaseka community comes together to do a variety of Dhamma activities, such as doing some chanting, which we just did. Later on, we'll do some guided meditation. In between, it's always a grab bag. Each Dhammapalooza is different. We never know how it's going to go. And this is because the community guides how the Dhammapalooza is going to go. For now, for the next couple of minutes, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, if you have any topics you'd like me to discuss or the community, all of us to discuss, related to Buddhism, monasticism, meditation, etc., you can put those in the chat. You can put questions in the chat. While I'm talking and while the event is going on, you can always feel free to talk to each other in the chat. You're not interrupting me if you're talking in the chat. So this is a time, for everybody to come together in Dhamma, to talk to each other, get to know each other, these kind of things. So you're welcome to do that in the chat. And so for now, for the next couple of minutes, I'll keep an eye on the chat and we'll see if anybody has any comments or questions or topics. And then otherwise, I will have a sutta. I have a sutta waiting for us called Measuring Up. And then if there's no comments or questions, then or topics, then we'll read a sutta. Steve says that Dhammapalooza now finishes at 2 a.m. instead of 3 a.m. this week because of the, oh, very good. For a short time, you don't have to stay up as late. We appreciate all our friends who come from all over the world, like Steve and Sean and Douse, everybody all over in different places. Sean, I'm heading to a meditation retreat with Bhante Sujato this coming weekend. Ah, very good. Any newbie tips to help me have a good time? Yeah, don't bring any expectations, follow directions, and let go. That's what I would say. You're with capable hands. That's good that Bhante Sujato has a retreat coming up in person, I guess. That's good. I am in planning stages. We'll see what happens, but I'm in planning stages to come to Australia in November. End of October, first half of November. We'll see what happens. But and to meet Bhante Sujato among others, so it would be nice if I was able to do a weekend retreat with him. But yeah, so just don't bring any expectations. Do your best to let the outside be outside. Just be there with Bhante and follow the instructions, and then just let it be. Let it. Don't try to force anything. Don't try to expect anything. Just be there. Yeah, if it's just a weekend meditation, is it just a weekend meditation or is it like a 7-day meditation or retreat? If it was like a week-long retreat, I would give probably a couple more tips. But if it's just a weekend, then a lot of that wouldn't apply. Hello, everybody who's joined. Welcome to Dhammapalooza. Right now, we are um, going over if anybody has any questions or topics you'd like me to discuss related to Buddhism, monasticism, meditation, etc. Um, then we're just going through that. And when the questions or topics are exhausted, then I have a sutta for us to read. A weekend meditation at a zoo. That's interesting. Is it like an animal zoo or is this just like the name for something? Like some people consider like a daycare a zoo or a kindergarten a zoo with the kids running around. Animal-based sutta teachings. Okay, that's interesting. Huh. Leave it to Bhante Sujato to think of something like that. Yeah. All right. Elaine has a good question. Is there any way one can encourage the ripening of good karma at critical and moments in one's life, i.e., surgery or death? Um, this is a common thought that that is propagated in the Theravada world. I don't know about Mahayana, but there's this thought that or is later in the tradition where like you want to at the moment of your death you want to think of uh you want to think of like good thoughts. You don't want to have any bad thoughts arise. um and I frankly I don't follow that. I don't it's not in the suttas, and also just from my understanding of death, I don't think you have a lot of control of your in that regard in the death process. Maybe if you're a highly advanced meditator, you might have some control, but the average person is not going to have, in my opinion, not going to have much control over their thoughts at the moment of death. So, what to do is to practice now. Practice lots of metta now. Practice mindfulness of death now, so that when the time comes, then you will be prepared, you will be ready, and your mind will have been habituated and trained to it. So skillfulness will arise. Now, Elaine, I know that you said this morning that you are undergoing a procedure, and so this is probably very soon, which is where this question is coming from. And what I would suggest is this: is to use this procedure as a reflection. Now, I don't know. So I mean, I've told this story about how when I did my skydiving, the only time I skydived a year or two before I went to the monastery, um, and on the flight up, even though I wasn't scared, I used it as a time to practice mindfulness of death. Like my chute might not open, and I could die, and all kinds of things could happen. Right? And it was a very peaceful flight up. I love flying, but and it was a rather fun flight down. and I'm still here. But the other example I use is um, when I uh-oh. Is anybody else having issues, or is it just Elaine? All right. Okay. No, I don't know if Elaine um, lives in a more rural area or something like that, but it is something that she regularly has to deal with is connection issues here. Oh, Jason, welcome. So probably what happened was there's probably connection issue on her end. If you live outside of the cities and the suburbs of America, your internet is never that great. And your options for internet are never that great. I'm hoping that by the time I have my own monastery in 10 or years or whatever, however many years, Starlink will be nice up and perfect. And even if it's in the middle of the mountains in Colorado, I'll have good internet to stream Dhamma to people. We'll see. So I'm just giving it a minute or two to see if Elaine can come back so I can finish with her question. Um, as I said, she is undergoing a surgery soon, a pretty serious surgery. So I want her um, to hear my response. Whether it'll be helpful or not, I don't know. All right. Well, well, Elaine will be back, I'm sure. So I'll continue talking to her when she gets back, but we'll move on. Chandra Sekar has a question. What is meant by jhanas? Is it high levels of concentration or knowledge? Thank you. So jhanas are the highest level of samadhi. Samadhi is a state of mind, a samatha state of mind, a mind of tranquility, a mind that is focused, a mind that comes to rest, a mind that is totally enmeshed and focused and one with an object like the breath. And what this does is calms the mind, tranquilizes the mind so that it can enter into deep states of stillness. So this term is jhana actually has the same root as the word for meditation. And let me see if I can. Ugh, I can't put the whole thing here because there's a character limit. Like, what is this, Twitter? All right, here. Okay, I'm going to do this in two things. So, jayati, it means meditation, but also means to burn, to be on fire. And it's connected with the same root for jhana. What this is, it burns away the defilements. burns away the unskillful habits. That's what this is. Let me see here. It says to put together to kindle a fire, connected with the same root for samadhi, one pointedness of mind, absorption of mind on the object, etc. So that's what jhana is. Jhana is this deep state of concentration, reaching its pinnacle in the fourth jhana, where there is no likes and dislikes, no pleasure and pain. All of that stuff that clouds our mind, clouds our eyes, clouds our ability to see is gone, and there's just equanimity, a mind that is equanimous, not jumping here and there, that is just flat and at rest, a mind that is equanimous and mindful. And a mind that is equanimous and mindful can see things as they are. The Buddha says one who has concentration, who has samadhi, sees things as they are. So that is the purpose in the suttas for the development of jhana in your practice. Is anybody still there? Am I still good? Can you hear me? I'm just this is the first time I'm doing this on this internet. Actually, no, it's not. A couple months back I did it on this internet. I forgot. Yeah, that's right. I did do it here a couple months back. Ah, very good, very good. So Sean has a question. Bante, can you talk about basing practice on virtue as opposed to intensive meditation? I have had some progress lately, and I noticed that it was the consequence of virtue rather than advancing meditation. Okay, Elaine's back, so I'm going to finish. Elaine, um, what I was talking about was that it's too it's too late to kind of do anything that is habituized to the mind, habituated. You can't just in the last minute of sorts be like, okay, now my mind is going to be calm and clear, and during a surgery or death or something like that. That's something that has to be practiced over time. What I would suggest is, and see, this is, I don't know how much mindfulness of death practice you have, so it's hard for me to kind of judge, your own mind how this would go. But I don't know. Did you hear me talking about my skydiving thing, or did you cut out before that? Practicing mindfulness of death, going up the skydiving, and about 6 years ago now, I was a bone marrow donor, and they had to put me under. They had to put me under for the bone marrow, and there's a little interesting story. All right, with the day of, it was a multi-month process. I had to go into DC a bunch of times and give blood, donate my blood to myself, all these things. And the morning of, there I'm in like the intake area, and there's these nurses, and they gotta, I don't know, check my blood, do all these kind of things. And this Thai woman, this Thai nurse comes in, she goes like this. And all of a sudden she's like freaked out. She's like, "Oh, there's a monk. Like, what am I supposed to do? Maybe I'm not supposed to touch the monk, but I'm supposed to, like, check his vitals and such and such and such." And it was an interesting experience for me in that regard. And I told her, I said, listen, this is you do what you need to do for your job. This is not breaking any rules. This is perfectly fine. It's for health, no worries. And she's like, okay, okay, good. So she felt better. But that's just a silly story. But one of the things that I did as I was waiting to be anesthetized, and I reflected upon, well, I might not wake up from this. It's possible. I might not wake up from this. And I thought, well, if I didn't wake up from this, do I have any regrets? Have I lived a good life? Have I attempted to follow the path in the Dhamma as to the best of my abilities? And I thought, well, yeah, actually I have. So there's no regrets. I haven't become awakened yet in this life, and that's okay. Maybe in the next one, if I don't wake up from this. And then I was kind of at peace, and I was just ready. And obviously, I also reflected on statistics are I'll be fine. I'll come out of it, no problem. This is about the fifth or sixth time in my lifetime I've had a surgery or such and such, and I'm still alive. I'm still here, but just in case. Right, so to reflect on that, to use it as an object of reflecting on the fact that, yeah, it is possible that you won't make it out of this. But it's also chances are that you will. And so you can think of, well, if I don't make it out of it, well, then maybe I'll just do better in the next life. Or it can be used as a thought of, well, I've come to this point. It's made me realize, like, my life is short. If I come out of this on the other end, fine. How should I live my life better? So you can reflect on that. How can I live my life better? What more skillful action should I do? Hello, Adriana. Welcome. Hello, Gautam and Bella. You can't force karma. You can't control karma. You can't say like, oh, I need an extra boost of good karma for the upcoming surgery or the upcoming may my sports team with my good karma, may my sports team win the championship or something like that. You can't. This is not how it works. We can only ever decide how we wish to act now. Right? What can I do to make this situation that I'm in, that I am entering in, a skillful basis for practice, an object of my meditation? You think about the surgery, and maybe fears arise. You can observe those fears. Use those fears as an object of the meditation. You think about the surgery and you think about death. Use it as an object of meditation. You can't force anything. You can only set the groundwork for things. So this is what I would suggest. And I wish that you a very uneventful surgery and a swift recovery. And it's always a pleasure to have you here with us on Dhammapalooza and a morning monastery experience. You're part of the Muggaseka family, Elaine. So it's always wonderful to see you. Adriana, I am traveling light. So I don't have my normal HD webcam and Yeti mic and all that kind of stuff. For this is the first Dhammapalooza. I'm using the the laptop. The first time I'm using the laptop video and the new headset, because my old headset of 4 years just died a couple days ago, so I had to get a new one. Since I don't have my Yeti with me, because I'm trying to travel light and hopefully in the next week or two go into Texas for a little bit. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but but I'm trying to practice in traveling light. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of extra space lugging all kinds of equipment all over, especially if you want to go on the plane with it. It's too much. All right. I actually had the thought of doing Dhammapalooza using my phone and my tablet. And I suspect one day that actually will have to be how it works. I think it can be done. The phone for the video and the stream, and my tablet to see the chat, something like that. So this is me kind of testing out how all the different ways that I can do this live streaming stuff. All right, let's see. Okay, back to Sean's question about virtue and meditation. See, this is the problem. We don't want to base our practice on meditation as opposed to virtue, or virtue as opposed to meditation. It's both. This is why I harp on the Noble Eightfold Path. When I talk about being a student of the path, Magga Seka, right? It's all in the path. It's all in the Noble Eightfold Path. Noble Eightfold Path is Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. Virtuous living, cleansing the mind, and development of wisdom. That is the path. So it's not one or the other, it's how do you do both? That's the most important thing. Now, of course, the Buddha in the suttas gives the gradual path, the gradual practice. And there's two types of gradual practice. One of them starts with dana, and the other one starts with sila. Either way, you're starting with virtuous principles, living by virtuous principles. Either way, that is the start. And you need to be able to really to go deep in your meditation, you need to be living by virtuous principles. There's like a nice stopgap that like evil people can't become can't get Jhanas. People who are really not living by virtuous principles can't get these like powerful, deep meditative things. That's nice, right? Because if they could, who knows what kind of harm they could cause, especially getting the cities, the powers, like the floating around and all that kind of stuff. So this is why morality, living by virtuous principles, living by a code of ethics, the Buddhist code of ethics, the Buddhist principles, is something that all Buddhist people should do. Anybody who says that they are a Buddhist that follows the Noble Eightfold Path, living by virtuous principles, living by this code of ethics, is part of this. And it's funny, I've been noticing in myself in the last year or two this kind of like Christian preacher arising. Because I'm like looking out in the world and I'm seeing just this kind of like a degradation of everything, a degradation of the family, a degradation of ethical living. It's just this kind of anything goes, do whatever, be whatever kind of a thing. And it's not good. It's not good for society. Very kind of hedonistic kind of thing. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I like am I becoming like, one of these like, people who's gonna talk more about ethics, more about the principles? And I guess the answer is yes. Like it is important. It's very important to have a set of virtuous principles to live by. Very important. And, something that you really do act in skillful ways that are beneficial. And you can't go wrong with the Noble Eightfold Path. This is so important. Very important. So, this is will always be it's part of the teachings. It's part of the Noble Eightfold Path. So, virtue, ethics, morality, principles should be part of your life as a Buddhist person. If you're not following the Buddhist path, do whatever you want. This is what everybody else does these days anyway. But it's very important, that at least we Buddhist people live by virtuous principles. And then this way, our meditation can go very well. I've not experienced this, but I've heard from different monastics who have experienced the a Buddhist person from one of the Buddhist countries like Thailand or Burma or Sri Lanka or whatever, and they practice just lots of virtue. They never were not taught to meditate, etc. But now they're in the West and they learn, oh, we should meditate, and then they start meditating, and they can sit for an hour. They can be at peace. Their mind is calm and clear, and it's like, well, I mean, you could say, well, beginner's luck. But also you could say, well, they've lived a life of, dana and sila. And there's and that is the fruit of this, that they're able to practice in such a way. So it's very important. Or again, it's not one or the other, it's both. And they inform each other. It's like a positive feedback loop. Living um, as you live as you live more virtuously, you're able to practice and develop more wisdom. And as you develop more wisdom, you naturally live more virtuously because you see your ignorance, you see your delusion, you see how you cause yourself suffering, and you say, I don't want to do this anymore. And so you naturally live more, and then your virtue raises, and so does your meditation and your wisdom raise, and it just goes. They kind of help each other to progress. It's a feedback loop that goes up and up and up and up. And this is why you can often see people like who are not really into virtuous principles and things like that. They get into meditation, and if the meditation does kind of start to go up, then they start to see, oh well, I should be living better. And then they take on the precepts and they start to live better. So remember both. The Noble Eightfold Path is sila, samadhi, and panya. Not one or the other. All right, let's see here. Ah, very good, Elaine. Very good. Oh, you gave a heating pad to another person. That's when you're in pain and you're able to think about somebody who's worse off than you. That's a very good. That's a good thing. It's a very good thing, especially if you don't need it. I mean, you don't want to make yourself worse off. Remember, it's about yourself and others. But no, Elaine, I can't think of anything else. I think you're handling this quite well. So keep doing it. Keep going. All right. So it looks like we have come to the end of questions. Chat's pretty quiet tonight. That's okay. Let's read a sutta. Let's read about measuring up. All right. Okay. So, okay, I put in the link. Very good. So I have heard. At one time, Venerable Mahamoggallana was staying in the land of the Buggas on Crocodile Hill, not doing the Crocodile Rock, in the deer park at Pesakala's Wood. There, Venerable Mahamoggallana addressed the mendicants. Reverence, mendicants, reverend, they replied. So the word here um, is avuso, and this is a term that a senior monastic says to a junior monastic. It means like friend, brother. Here, this is Bhante Sujato has translated it as reverend. And so mendicants is Bhante Sujato translates it from bhikkhus. All right, Reverend, they reply. Venerable Mahamoggallana said this. Suppose a mendicant invites other mendicants to admonish them, but they're hard to admonish, having qualities that make them hard to admonish. They're impatient and don't take instruction respectfully. So their spiritual companions don't think it's worth advising and instructing them, and that person doesn't gain their trust. So that's what this is about. This is, you see this in the suttas often about how a monastic should be easy to admonish. This means that if they do something unskillful, that the other monastics will say, such and such, Bante J, you have done an unskillful thing, or we think that you should do X, Y, and Z in the future. And then, a monk can be like, yes, I will investigate this and I will think about this and try to do better in the future. Or the monk can be like, well, but, this and that and this and such and stuff like that. That's, if you, if the person that is trying to correct you or trying to allow you to see things is doing so with good intentions, not trying to be harmful towards you, not trying to get you or anything like that, then it's important to investigate what they say and to see its truth, to see if it's something there or not. And so this is why the Buddha talks about often, so many times in so many places, even in the big the famous sutta, Kakachupama Sutta, simile of the saw. The Buddha talks about, I don't praise someone who is easy to admonish because they want robes and bowls and food and such, right? But if somebody can be admonished and experience unpleasant admonishment or unpleasant experience, and yet they can still be peaceful and calm, then that is somebody who is I can praise and who has metta. And so that's what this ethos of admonishment among monks is, because Ajahn Chah said a monastery is like a bunch of rocks that bump into each other until they become diamonds. So, like, as monastics, that's why it's so important to have good kalyanamitas, both as layperson and monastics. For as a monastic, it's important to have a um, monastic kalyanamitas who have your back, right? Who are looking out for what's best in you and your best interest, and are not afraid to call you out when they think that you're not being skillful. Right? And then because you know that they have your best interest in mind, you investigate that and to see if there's truth in there. And then you also do the same for them. And so this is why admonishment is so important. And so this is what the Buddha is going to talk about, or I'm sorry, Mahamoggallana is going to talk about admonishment. This is an important part, an important aspect of this sutta here. Suppose a mendicant invites other mendicants to admonish them. This is another thing. Like when I went to Abhayagiri, I went to a place I had never been before, and I didn't know their ways. And I knew Vinaya, but I didn't know their ways, and I felt it would be a good thing. I told all the monastics, even the junior ones, which is something that's not often happens. I told all the monastics that if I did anything wrong, anything against their core wat, anything against the etiquette of Abhayagiri, then anybody should be free to tell me that, to come up to me and say, hey, listen, we don't, this is not how this should be done. You did this wrong, you did that wrong. No problem. And I told everybody to that. And one of the senior ajahns said, thank you, that's it's a very good thing. And my week there, like 2 or 3 times, somebody did say, oh, well, we don't do this, or we wash the boulders, or nothing major. It was just, but so that I would not interrupt their community in any way. I wanted to have minimal negative impact on their community. And so I offered everybody there to admonish me if I needed to be admonished. That's a very good way of practicing humility. So, all right. So suppose a mendicant invites other mendicants to admonish them, but then they're hard to admonish, having qualities that make them hard to admonish. They're impatient and don't take instruction respectfully. So their spiritual companions don't think it worth advising and instructing them, and that person doesn't gain their trust. And what are the qualities that make them hard to admonish? Firstly, a mendicant has wicked desires, having fallen under the sway of wicked desires. This is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish. Furthermore, a mendicant glorifies themselves and puts down others. They're irritable, overcome by anger. They're irritable and hostile due to anger. They're irritable and stubborn due to anger. They're irritable and blurt out words bordering on anger. When accused, they object to the accuser. When accused, they rebuke the accuser. When accused, they retort the accuser. When accused, they dodge the issue. Distracted discussion with irrelevant points, and display annoyance, hate, and bitterness. So we understand here there's all these qualities that the Buddha is giving as somebody who makes it hard for them to be admonished. When accused, they are unable to account for their behavior. They are offensive and contemptuous. They're jealous and stingy. They're devious and deceitful. They're obstinate and vain. Furthermore, a mendicant is attached to their own views, holding them tight and refusing to let go. This too is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish. These are the qualities that make them hard to admonish. Suppose a mendicant doesn't invite other mendicants to admonish them, but they're easy to admonish, having qualities that make them easy to admonish. They're accepting and take instruction respectfully, so their spiritual companions think it's worth advising and instructing them, and that person gains their trust. And this is exactly what happened to the Abhayagiri. Because I offered admonishment and I took admonishment well, I gained their trust. It's very one of the hundreds and hundreds of ways that the Buddha calls reality 100% right. This is why I love the suttas. It's just totally accurate. All right. Of course, here now Mahamoggallana is teaching, but this is also what the Buddha would say anyway. Suppose a mendicant doesn't invite other mendicants, but they're easy to admonish, they're respectful. Okay, so the spirit. Okay, I read that already. And what are the qualities that make them easy to admonish? Firstly, a mendicant doesn't have wicked desires, and it goes through the whole thing again. Furthermore, a mendicant isn't attached to their own views, not holding them tight, but letting them go easily. These are the qualities that make them easy to admonish. In such a case, a mendicant should measure themselves against others like this. This person has wicked desires, having fallen under the sway of the wicked desires, and I don't like or approve of this person. And if I were to fall under the sway of wicked desires, others wouldn't like or approve of me. A mendicant who knows this should give rise to the thought, I will not fall under the sway of wicked desires. This person is attached to their own views, holding them tight and refusing to let go. And I don't like or approve of this person. If I were to be attached to my own views, holding them tight and refusing to let go, others wouldn't like or approve of me. A mendicant who knows this should give rise to the thought, I will not be attached to my own views, holding them tight, but will let them go easily. In such a case, a mendicant should check themselves like this. Do I have wicked desires? Have I fallen under the sway of wicked desires? Suppose that upon checking, a mendicant knows that they have fallen under the sway of wicked desires. Then they should make an effort to give up those bad, unskillful qualities. But suppose that upon checking, a mendicant knows that they haven't fallen under the sway of wicked desires. Then they should meditate with rapture and joy, training day and night in skillful qualities. Well, this is a heavily ellipsed sutta. There's lots and lots of Pali, but it is repetitious. But we're coming to the almost the end of the sutta already. Suppose that upon checking, a mendicant knows that they are attached to their own views, holding them tight and refusing to let go. Then they should make an effort to give up those bad, unskillful qualities. Suppose that upon checking, a mendicant knows that they're not attached to their own views, holding them tight, but let them go easily. Then they should meditate with rapture and joy, training day and night in skillful qualities. Suppose that upon checking, a mendicant sees that they haven't given up all these bad and unskillful qualities, then they should make an effort and give them all up. But suppose that upon checking, a mendicant sees that they have given up all these bad and unskillful qualities, then they should meditate with rapture and joy, training day and night in skillful qualities. Suppose there was a woman or a man who was young, youthful, and fond of adornments, and they checked their own reflection in a clean, bright mirror, or a clear bowl of water. If they see any dirt or blemish there, they'd try to remove it. But if they don't see any dirt or blemish there, they're happy, thinking, how fortunate that I am clean. In the same way, suppose that, upon checking, a mendicant sees that they haven't given up all these bad and skillful qualities, then they should make an effort to give them all up. But suppose that upon checking, a mendicant sees that they have given up these bad, unskillful qualities, then they should meditate with rapture and joy, training in day and night in skillful qualities. This is what Venerable Mahamoggallana said. Satisfied, the mendicants were happy with what Mahamoggallana said. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Any thoughts on that sutta? It's a fairly straightforward sutta, and this is also, something that is not just for monastics, but this is something that all of us can put into practice. Oh, Osmanthus, welcome. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. All right. It is a quiet, quiet chat tonight. Sean makes a good question, and this is something I've thought of as well because I have met monastics that I don't trust that they don't have my best intention in mind. And the Buddha also comments on these things. It's very important. Uh-oh. It says connection is unstable. Am I still here? Okay. So the Buddha, if you read in the monastic rules, the Buddha gives a even the most junior monastic the ability to make sure, like for instance, when we monastics are supposed to confess when we break rules that entitle confession. And we should do this to the monks in our community, but the Buddha allows us that if the only monastic that you can confess to is someone who you feel might hold it against you or use it against you or that you don't trust, then you don't need to confess it to him, and you can confess it to somebody else at a later date. So the Buddha understands that there is this, you're giving trust. So like in the sutta where it says you should give up your views, and you think, well, what if they're trying to gaslight me, or what if they're maybe I do honestly, sincerely feel I'm in the right here. Maybe I don't just give just okay, whatever. No, I accept admonishment, right? So there's a skillful thing here that it's hard. It's not easy because because there is such a thing. You don't want to um, attach to your views, but like for instance, like somebody who's an abbot or somebody who's running an organization. Like I think about this a lot, because I'm starting Magaseka and wanting, in the future. And I think, well, I'm usually I'm usually pretty good at just like, oh, well, if it's not a big deal, I know, well, we can do this, we can do that. But there are just some things that I feel have to be, stuck up for, and that I have to press, that I have to do. And so then, I can seem, a person on the outside can seem, oh, this person is being obstinate or whatever. I'm not an awakened being, so I can't do it like as skillful as an awakened being could. But there are certain things that if you have a responsibility for, you will have to not just brush it all. If somebody says something and you need to do something about it, then you have to do something about it. So it's a nuanced topic. And this is talking about the sutta is talking about, when you're around someone like, if you're around like Mahamogalana, right? You don't, you could trust him. If he gives you admonishment, it's coming from a good place. These kind of things. So you have to protect yourself in this. It's the same thing. Another rule that the monastics, even a bhikkhu that's 1 day old, a lot of people have this mistaken understanding that you have to stay with the person who ordains you for 5 years. This is not the case. This is not in the rules. A monk needs to stay independent of a senior monastic for the first 5 years. But in many places in the Buddhist world, the person who ordains you, like in Sri Lanka, they'll have like grand, like 30, 40 people getting ordained at once by like the grand high Mahanayaka Tara, right? But you don't stay under them as your teacher. You go to somebody else. Um, and so this is the Buddha allows the bhikkhu or the bhikkhuni to choose who they want to be under, to investigate who they want to be under. Is this monastic a skillful person? Do they have my best interest at heart? And if no, then you don't have to be under them. You can go in search of somebody else, right? Who who you can be under. So the Buddha understands that there are these, it's not just like, somebody comes and admonishes you, and you without any kind of thinking or any kind of investigating, you just go, oh yes, I know, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. No, because people take advantage of you then. So sometimes you have to stick to your principles. Now you should do it, fully understanding that you might be in the wrong, right? Or there might be a better way for you to do it or to say it, but you need to stick up for yourself, and that's fine. So that's important. But still, these qualities are still something that's very good to develop. Very good to develop. That being said, even if you don't trust the person's intention, they could see you as an enemy. They could want to harm you, but they also could be right. That's the kicker. This is why it's important to investigate and to contemplate. Now, all this other stuff that they might be doing, their intentions and stuff might be unskillful, but they still might be right. Just because it's coming from somebody that you don't like or don't trust doesn't mean it's fully wrong. That's why you have to investigate. Now, of course, you also don't want to do it to the point where you start to really have no self-confidence and, like, you just are always questioning yourself and things like that. That's not good either. Somebody you like gaslighting you and things like that. You have to investigate and question, but you also have to say, "No, I'm taking a stand on this. From my best in understanding, this is true and this is false, and I don't need to be taken advantage of." All right. Well, I think maybe it's time to do our meditation. We are here, right? When the chat doesn't move for a long time, I always feel like I should check. And we've lost a bunch of people too. So, all right. Very good. So, why don't we do our guided meditation now? And then afterwards, if anybody has any questions, we can use the remaining time, and or we can read Dhammapada verses. We haven't read any Dhammapada verses in a while because last week there was no Dhammapalooza, and so I guess that's another that's another thing. Anytime I skip, or anytime I go away from morning monastery experience or Dhammapalooza or whatever, or my second life session, there's always a loss the next time. It's like people, this is why YouTube, they're always like, you should, upload every week and do this and do this so that people, what do they call it? Like audience retention or something like that. I don't know. But so we'll continue going. All right. So let's do our guided meditation. Sit in a position that's comfortable and stable for you. We'll take some time to scan through the body, starting from the toes and going up to the head. As you move up the body, bring your awareness, your attention to any sensations that you feel within each part of the body. You may feel small feelings of discomfort. Also, notice how that part of the body impacts your posture. And if you need to adjust your posture for stability or to alleviate uncomfortable feelings, then you can do that. It's better to move around and set up your posture now than to move around later. It's good for our body to become calm and tranquil, just like the mind. Bring your awareness up through your toes and feet to your ankles and calves, up through the knees and into the thighs. Up to the hips and pelvis, checking how the position of the hips and pelvis impacts the spine, the posture. Bring your awareness up the spine, through the abs, and into the chest. Checking to see that the spine is in its neutral position, not slouching or leaning here and there. And your awareness to the shoulders, making sure they're hanging loosely. Then down through the elbows into the hands, checking how their position affects your posture. And finally, the head. Check that the chin is parallel to the floor and the head is not slouching and leaning here and there. When you're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. Then let the breath go. From here on in, try not to manipulate or control the breath in any way. This body has been breathing from the moment you were born and will continue to do so until the second you die. Always remember it doesn't need you to do its job. Let the body breathe in and breathe out. And you follow, investigate, and abide with the breath. Watch as this body breathes in. Watch as this body breathes out. As you're following your breath, you will become distracted. Your mind will get bored and will run away to the past or the future, across the world or the galaxy, or a sound or distraction from the outside will arise and will take the mind's attention. When this happens, first acknowledge that you've been distracted when your mindfulness returns. Practice letting go of the distraction by neither getting agitated and pushing it away, nor by getting attached to it and excited about it. And then return to the breath. Acknowledge, let go, and return every time you're distracted away. Every once in a while, check in with the state of your mind. Is your mind becoming more calm and tranquil or not? As your mind becomes more tranquil, you may begin to notice further, more subtle characteristics of the breath. Sometimes the breath is long and deep, sometimes short and shallow. Investigate how the breath is changing as you follow it in and follow it out.